Well, good evening, everyone. From somewhat, I won't say cold, but old man chilly, uh, California. And I know we're a minute or two late. Got to get things kind of situated around here. Let's get all the commercials and stuff out of the way. If you don't know, I am James E. King III. On some social media, most of social media, I go by James E. King III, or as you can see, West Coast Steeler fan. Our Cash App is JE King 3. You can see our channel on YouTube and subscribe and donate. Let's see, with all of that out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about the elections now that things are in the proper perspective. And I went on Clubhouse today. For those of you that don't know, Clubhouse is an app on your phone, and they discuss many, many topics. There's many rooms that you can go to and chat about just about everything from music to sex to voting to history. And you can go on there and find a lot of interesting topics being discussed. With that being said, um, the discussion that I went in on was about the Democrats and what's next for the Democratic leadership. And it goes along with the subjects that we're talking about tonight. Excuse me. Anyway, um, as you know, last week, uh, when all the dust settled, we found that we had our first Gen Z elector. And there were two. One was an election denier, a Trump advocate, and she lost. And as I said, this was Gen Z, so you cannot equate uh, the election deniability as being a part of senility or being old. This is a Gen Z. I believe she was 25 years, well, 1997. So you can kind of figure out the math from there. The other gentleman was elected. He was a Democrat. And I believe he was from Florida. I know he visited Pulse and some other places around there. And uh, I can't say for sure that he's a member of the LGBTQ community plus community, but I know he is a part of the Gen Z generation. And this man was elected. Now, when you consider that it was the young vote that came out, I want to say 45 and under. I'm probably stretching a little bit. It's probably 38 to 21. The group that actually came out and made a difference uh, in the in the election, because these are usually, at least when we were talking before Biden's election, This was the primary aim, was to get this generation out. And I think, like most of us, excuse me, I think like most of us, we thought that the Gen Z vote was going to be very low. The Gen Z vote wasn't going to turn out because we had never seen them turn out, like the demonstrations that were after some of the incidents. Uh, and when they did show up, they were called looters and lawless and uh, uh, all types of names. And there were acts that were contributed to them when, like most times, there are acts of violence or lawlessness. It's always those people that did it. And usually, when you say those people, you're talking about people of color. I have yet to see or to hear that no, I have to take that back. I have to take that back because when you had the guy in one city, was it Michigan? Was it in Michigan or Minnesota? Where you had the guy that was going around shattering windows. Uh, he was a white guy, but his actions were contributed to the fact that he was a part of Antifa. They still haven't quite explained to us what Antifa was or what it meant. But this was a lawless organization that was out to ruin the police and to make police seem like the bad guys. Well, let me kind of clue you in on something because maybe you don't know. But in certain communities, the police are considered bad guys. And I can show you numerous police departments, especially narcotics, where police have actually stole drugs and put them back into the black community. We have seen police that have taken the law into their own hands and been punished. So this fear of police is more of out of experience or reputation in some cases, because in some cases you don't have to fear the police because the police aren't coming there. You live on that particular side of the tracks, you live on that particular side of the freeway. Your police response time is maybe 24 hours at best. Unless there's that all familiar phrase today, shots fired. And, excuse me here. Um, okay. Yes. As I was saying, unless there's that connection of shots fired, then you may get police at a astounding level. But then I also see a homeless guy that's surrounded by 6 police cars, 2 on a bike, and at least 1 sergeant or officer that arrives on the scene. On the other hand, I've seen domestic violence cases handled with settle down, we don't want to come back. Now, of course, there is a vast economic difference between the settle down and we don't want to come back and the homeless guy that's surrounded by 6 police cars. Now, this guy that's surrounded by 6 police cars, let me tell you what's going to happen. First of all, his cart or whatever things he has with him is going to probably be considered debris and left there for somebody else to clean up. Number 2, he's going to more or less find shelter for whatever he committed that night. So he's basically found a hotel. It might be the Roach Motel, but he's found somewhere to lay to take care of his basic needs. He has 3 hots and a cot, as they used to say, and his needs are taken care of at least until they put him back out to society. Okay. But in the meantime, you and I are paying the salary of these policemen. Now, I don't mind paying their salary, but I see empty buildings in my neighborhood that could be cleaned up and used as places for young kids or even some young homeless kids, because we do have those out here in San Diego too, to be sheltered. How come we couldn't have 2 of those or 3 of those officers providing those services that are needed by the community? So you see, when I say defund the police, which is one of the earlier phrases that I use, but I try to get people to understand that maybe that I should say reform the police department so that those funds that are being diverted for nothing, let them serve as a beacon to the community like we used to have. Once again, I mean, there are certain things from history that you can use, that you can duplicate, and they work. The principle of a roller coaster has not stopped. The principle is still there. The way it's applied and the appliances to which it's applied is what's changed. Roller coasters are not made of wood anymore. You don't have the big wooden boxes. In some cases, you don't even have a car. Where you in? You're strapped into some type of little individual. Maybe there's two of you. Maybe there's four of you. Some type of cage that holds you on, and you still have the same. And in some instances, depending upon the position, you have the sensation of flying. But I've gotten all the way off the subject here. But my thing is that you can use these funds, you can divert these funds to helpful programs for our youth. If you have 25%, I'll even lower it. If you have 12% of the graduating class that cannot fill out a job application or properly read a printed book, there are things that we can do to fix this. And I know, okay, well, hey, they're police. They're here to protect and serve. They're not here to teach people how to read. They're not here to provide psychological services for people. But if part of protecting your community includes properly educating your community so that they do not resort to lies of crime, so that they see law enforcement in a different light, then maybe you save the lives or life of one individual. Now, as I said, I was an exception because it was my lifetime ambition to be a crook, to be a thief. So I may have been different, but I also see the difference that I can make within my community. And I see a lot of um, opportunities that were actually lost in my youth. Now, um, one of the scams that we had coming out of incarceration back in the early 80s was that of a drug counselor. And the object was to take hardcore junkies and they would actually run these programs. Now, here's the thing. In some places, especially in northeastern Ohio, because these are the places that I know of, you would have maybe 100 dispensaries or programs that were actually doing the right thing. But because of that one individual or that one program, the whole program was banned. Now, if you think that, I'm whistling Dixie or blowing smoke, does anybody remember Marion Barry? Marion Barry was caught smoking crack with a prostitute. Marion Barry was reelected. I'm not sure it was that election, but he came back to be reelected. Now, uh-oh. Huh. Dr. Casey doesn't have the link. I wonder if anybody. Okay, let me see. Let's get Dr. Casey in here. See, now I know that once I get Dr. Casey in, that Mr. Scott is going to show up almost immediately. But I'm going to see because once again, I may be wrong. But anyway, getting back to um, my original rant here. Um, the people that used to sit behind desks are the people that's retiring. We don't have to replace those people. Why can't we replace those people with people that have different agendas or at least a different type of job assignment? Um, why not restructure or reform? And in some cases, probably even remake the community service part of most police departments. And I think if you meet this generation, especially on their terms, without necessarily having to kowtow or bow or swallow our pride, I think we could do a lot to solve this problem. Dr. Casey is coming on here very soon, and I'm going to get to the original agenda that I wrote out today, which concerns a lot of things about Generation Z and the squad, the re-elections, And as we know, Trump has decided that he is definitely going to come back for reelection. Now, the last time, um, the excuse of the Democratic Party was that Joe Biden was the only one that could beat Trump, which proved out to be right. Joe did beat Trump. But as I keep pointing out, both of these guys are going to be well beyond their prime when uh, they um, if elected this time. But is this going to be the excuse by which my generation forces Biden down the throat of all those voters under the age of 45? And as I say, that's being generous because I think I would think that the same age group that turned out for this election will turn out in even bigger numbers next election because those Gen Zers will be 2 years older, and instead we'll be talking about the people that were born in the year, let's see, 2000. And people born in 2000, let's see, they'd be 22 this year. So people born in 1998, 99 would just be turning 21. And if what people are saying about this particular generation and how bad this generation is, it's going to be very difficult to present a platform that they will listen to. And uh, pardon me while I send out one more email here. Okay. All right. Anyway, um, and one of the reasons why I mentioned uh, those community things is because I know there are some things that are still being held over and used as events to go to the community outreach part of our police department. At least that was the original intent. And I'm talking about some of the police athletic gyms that used to be open around the neighborhoods. And a lot of these guys that came and ran the gyms were guys that had some type of rank. So I mean, I'm not saying that they were, the lieutenants but we had a few lieutenants, we had some sergeants that that came through, and then of course you would always have the uh, administrators come through to see how you're doing. You know, we were like uh, the prize. Our bodies were still connected to the funding, and we're still connected to the funding. But now that funding includes automatic weapons, it includes armored vehicles, and things of that nature. As I said, why can't we take some of these abandoned properties or vacant buildings and turn them into useful projects within the community? I mean, hell, you can get them painted for free. All you have to do is tell some of these graphic, or as they call them, what do they call them? Graffiti artists, and turn them loose. This is our building. We want it to stand out. Instead of forcing it into a corner where it has to be brown on the outside, it has to have this many rooms, it has to have this many uh, uh, metal detectors. There are more feasible ways to use those parts of the police budget. And you also have to have the help of the community. Okay, I do a boxing show. Those of you that know me, I do a boxing show usually on Tuesdays, and I've had everyone from world champions to novices to just plain amateurs. And what I have noticed is that the successful ones, I didn't say all, but I said most of these successful ones had the backing of their families. Now, I can go to the worst exception in the world, Floyd Mayweather, father, uncle, Floyd himself. Not the pillar of the community, but he had a family foundation. if you go through and look at the successful fighters of today, Bud Crawford from Omaha, but every time he fights, you see his mama, his wife, his sister, you see the family in the audience. When Gary, well, or any of the brothers fought, when Coach was alive, the family was there. Even now, the Russell family is there. I interviewed uh, some of the guys that live in Texas. One guy's family raises French bulldogs along to uh, help offset his training costs. And I'm just, I'm saying that there are ways that we can use money more effectively. Oh my goodness! I think is- this is Dr. Casey, and I think we had the little schoolgirl look tonight here. What's going on there, Dr. Casey? What's happening?
It's the same look. I just got a little ponytail.
little, little ponytail, the little, hey, I'm getting ready to go way back here. The little Catholic school girl look. I mean, hey, you know, you didn't just come from that room, did you?
I actually just came from. I had to get some groceries and I ate me a little sandwich before I hopped in here.
Oh, okay, okay. But so how are things in Atlanta? I know the weather up along there is supposed to be atrocious. I don't know if it got as far down as Atlanta or not, but how are
Listen,
things on East Coast?
I had to turn my heat up last night. My bed, my bedroom spans the whole entire back of the house, so it's always the coldest part of the house. And by the time I got up, it was burning up when the sun started shining. So it's all over the place. It's really cold at night, like 30 something
Yeah, okay. Kind of like is here in California. Not the 30 something, but it just gets a little
cold.
chilly at night, and uh, but I was trying to talk a little bit about defunding the police, or as I was saying, reform the funding of the police. And I was just kind of getting into that real quick before we started talking about the elections. Um, what do you think about like you said, you're in Atlanta, and Atlanta itself is kind of to me like an island, a little blue island, because once you get outside of Atlanta, it's kind of like it is here in California. Once you get outside the big cities, it might not tell you it's a sundown town, but
It
you can
seems like
kind of pick it up. you can, you can kind of smell it in the air. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know. So I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Especially if we're not changing the face of those surrounding counties, or the people that vote in those surrounding counties.
You're talking about the defunding the police part?
Well, no, I'm talking about, well, yeah, the defunding the police part in the sense of uh, black people afraid to go to like Macon, you know,
Well, Macon actually,
not Macon itself, but there's a whole, I mean,
yeah.
the miles in between.
Well, to be completely honest, black people live throughout Georgia, despite the fact that it's really red everywhere else. You will see black people almost everywhere you go. It's just not as heavily populated as Atlanta and the surrounding like metro Atlanta area. So It's just that when you go those places, you see the flags and you kind of get the energy outside of the city limits. But it's also inside the city limits also, depending where you're going. So you can find that energy anywhere, even inside of Atlanta. However, when it comes to defunding the police, I am not really big on the defund the police move. I think that we just have to retrain and, like you said, reform how policing is done. One, you got to get people that are willing to be in the inner city, even when they're not on duty or when it's not a problem, because you build a rapport between the police and the community by them actually being a part of the community and doing things in the community. So like in Atlanta, we have like the circle of CEOs who do big give backs at the Krogers, and we have other people that it's this is a very giving place. But what I believe would be helpful is if the police did a lot more community involvement outside of ticketing and busting people, because that way they get to know the community, so they know who people are and how people are. Right now, if you're an outsider coming into the community, then you see everybody as thugs or harlots or people just trying to survive. But if you start to get to know people, then you understand the different dynamics that come within an inner city, not just Atlanta, but any inner city, because at the end of the day, people have different circumstances. Everybody that's on a street corner is not there because they just ain't got nothing else to do. Some of them are there for different reasons. And if you start understanding people and start helping people to get where they want to be in life, then you will decrease the crime, and it will help build a better structure within both the police department and the community. But one of the main things that I think that needs to happen is a lot of non-racial training. And when I say that, when you think about in police school academy, there's a lot of black targets. There are, and even if they're not black people, the dark figure, you know what I'm saying, like a shadowy type figure, that still is a psychological, play on what to expect. So that needs to happen. And then, like, again, a lot of the training that I think that would help be the most helpful is really being in the community and getting to understand and know the people in the community, whether it's the older people or the young people, being active in at the schools. I also believe that um quota based policing is very bad for the community, because you're not stopping people because a lot of times they're actually doing something wrong. You're really stopping people because you're trying to meet a quota or trying to get some extra, bonus points on your check. And then that
Or
makes
trying to get that rank.
yeah, and it makes police more aggressive when they don't necessarily have to be. And then if they're already on edge, if the training is anything like military training, when you get ready to go to war, you're going to be somewhat on edge because you don't know what to expect. But then there's a lot of other things that come into play when you think about police shootings and different other things that, like can make police officers a little bit more tense. It's just a matter of allowing them to understand each other. The community got to understand the police roles too, but the police got to play their role and not go overboard also.
Well, see, this is like I said, I'm going old school here, but in most neighborhoods, especially neighborhoods of color,
Hmm.
there are buildings, homes, structures, maybe even schools that are in disrepair and are eyesores and can be restructured for other purposes. For instance, uh, you could have after school programs in these buildings. We always point to our kids' education. Well, okay, maybe, Police shouldn't be teachers. But if that goes toward helping provide peace within that community, why not?
Mhm.
We used to have sports programs, whether they were baseball, football, boxing, whatever. We used to have these after school programs where kids could come and participate in sports. And one of the things that you had to do is that you had to have a passing grade.
Mhm.
Not a passing grade was a C. You didn't have to be on the honor roll, but you had to maintain at least a C. So when
Well,
I
I
say,
think that
so I'm thinking that uh, I know you say I'm picking on Minnesota, but I'm thinking of these 236 sergeants that retired. When you replace these people, why not put some diversion in there and have some
it's
of these
hard if
people?
those people don't
Go ahead. Go ahead.
if diverse a diverse group of people don't want to apply for whatever the reason may be, even though they don't understand that they can help, reshape the police force, a lot of people don't want to apply to be police officers. They don't want that type of position in their job. So it's like a catch-22. People have to actually want the job in order for them to give a more diverse audience the job.
But okay, then maybe again, once again, I'm wrong, but I have not seen any of those type of positions being offered out here in the San Diego Police Department. Maybe people don't want them, but give them the opportunity to say no.
I mean, they have job announcements just like any other company. A person has to go and apply for the job. I mean, let's be honest. There are black police officers that can be worse than white police officers.
Oh yeah, yes. Okay, I don't think I mean, you can look on any crime or true story for my whatever kind of thing you want to look on as far as true crime, and can see corruption on both sides. I'm not those things I'm not denying. The only thing I'm saying is give them more than one avenue. Maybe the people that weren't cut out for the war, maybe those people could become something else. Maybe counselors, or and you don't have to make them officers. Refer them to something else, or
Well,
create
I,
the
I believe
ability.
that they need to also add community-based services to the police department. Get some psychologists
Well,
and
that's
social workers. Have more of those sometimes than you actually have a police officers. Even if you get the dispatch, get a form of dispatch where okay, you can figure out what type of situation it is, and then forward those people to like a crisis center or something like that so that they can begin to talk the people down or talk them through whatever the situation may be. But I also believe that the same way they give teachers discounts for becoming teachers, they need to be funding more psychologists. But you got to understand that if they start funding people to help people see better, think better, and be better as people, develop a purpose and all of that, it will kind of throw off the grand scheme of the scheme that they
Yeah,
got going on.
right, right.
It kind of it it doesn't work well with keeping the mind control of the people that they can have control of.
Okay. Now, see, now we're this election. We had more young people vote than any other. We had more people your age vote than at any other time in the last 50 years. So, what I'm thinking, what I'm hoping, is that all of the people my age and even a little younger, people in their late 60s, maybe, maybe we'll do it like like Social Security, age 62 and over. Instead of us dictating and putting candidates in front of you guys to vote, it seems like now we're getting away from, or maybe it's a mirage. We're getting away from that
The good
planned,
old boy type of environment.
right? Because this is my generation talking, not yours. This is my generation still enforcing our roots and our values upon you.
I think that it's kind of a mirage that is changing, but it's kind of not because literally the younger the elected officials become, the more freer, freer we will begin to be because a lot of people don't think and believe the way that those people did. Now the thing is, the good old boy system was like a lot of hand selected family tree type of leadership. And it is a matter of are these leaders now teaching their children to run for office, and do those children have the same views? Because back in the day they wasn't, the leaders weren't the ones listening to rap music, they was against rap music. But now the people that's coming up now, regardless of what their color, race, or religious background is, they listening to a larger dynamic of music. So that makes them a little bit more versed in some things, although there are still going to be those diehard enthusiasts that are stuck in their ways based on what their parents taught them. It's just a matter of time, really. Is what are we going to see in 2031? We don't know what the grand scheme of things will look like because um, at some point the older senators and congressmen, they're going to eventually begin to pass away. Now I don't know when that is. That they all these conspiracy theories about how they keep themselves alive for so long, but eventually they have to expire like everybody else. And who takes their place? That is the question. Because I would say probably about 80% of, probably about 95% of the people that run this country are over 65.
Over 65. Come on.
I'm
I'm
lowballing.
s- I, I'm 75. They're older than me. Come on. What are
I
you
know
talking about?
all of them
60,
aren't, but a large
mo-
majority of them
70,
are.
78% of those are over 60, are over 70 at least. I mean, how old is Pelosi? How old is Schumer? Hell, goddamn Joe is older than me. I mean, So, like I said, to me, this is kind of like my generation forcing our values upon the younger generation. And then because, you know, I think in the political game, my generation is that big bully. And you guys are kind of like
Mm.
David, like throwing stones at us. But as you said, we're getting old, we're starting to get a little weak. And this last election, we saw a Gen Z actually get elected, even though there were two that
See, but
ran.
the
One,
thing is, the
go ahead.
baby bloomers are dwindling down. So you're not going to see a greater number of older people voting because younger people are coming of age. And there are a lot of young people that are reaching the age to vote. So the only way that we won't see an increase of younger voters is, and younger people running, is if people just don't register to vote, don't care. But the way society is now, especially with social media and the amount of communication and information that's available, you will automatically see more people using their voice because they're communicating more. So it may take a little bit more time for us to see the things that young people are asking for and fighting for. But at the end of the day, it's only going to last for so long because the structure of power is shifting to a younger generation.
Well, see
Well,
that if that was the if that was the case, or at least if my eyes were telling me that was the case, I could, I could accept that. But I'm still seeing the same old face. Now, true, Pelosi stepped down, but Schumer's old ass is still there. You know, I mean, now the good thing is that they did, or we're thinking that Jeffries is going to be the next leader of the Democrats. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but he is one of the senators, I mean, excuse me, representatives that is under the age of 50. I think there's 200, let's see, what was it? If 218 is a majority, 212, 218, 430 representatives that we have in the House. Something somewhere around in there, I'm thinking. It did. 430. Okay, so as of now, the majority of those are past the age of 60. As,
See, that's
as
what you said.
yeah, that's what I said.
Oh,
Well, no, but
I gave him
when
65.
yeah, I really want to say 70, but I can't say 70 because I'm not really sure. When I look, I'm looking at a whole lot of, like, some 80-year-olds in there, and then there's a few 70-year-olds that mixed in there. But when I say 70 and 80, I'm not talking about like 81, 82. You know, I'm talking about like almost seeing the beginning of the 1900s. You know,
Right, right.
so
No, seriously.
seriously, I mean, uh, hey, I'm born in 47. If somebody is born in 1920 or 1918, that motherfucker's old.
Yeah,
Okay,
my great grandma was born in 1910. So yeah.
yeah, so and I don't. I mean, we technology is something that we see and we use, but it's not part of our upbringing. I can remember when the computer was the devil's toy. Especially if you went to church. So like I said, I mean, we use technology because it's a necessity. But your generation uses it as a tool and as part of your everyday life. So my point being is as you say, as we start to get younger, you know, or as your generation, or as we see our leaders start to get younger, do you think that the
In
the
the next
people
5 years, we'll see some great change.
well, I would love to see that because we have an election coming in 2024, which will be a presidential election, and now, bless you, and now we know that 45 is going to run again.
And Kanye said he running too.
Well, Kanye had said that the last time. If you remember, Kanye had said, after he went and saw Trump and people made, well, I think I'll run for president too, which was part of what was the beginning and the end. But we we won't get, you know, but uh, is there, I've always said that I would love to see Trump in because I think that he would split the Republican vote. But once again, I think that our generation, or at least my generation, forced you guys to vote for Joe Biden to get in this time because it was Trump was. I mean, Biden was the only one that could beat Trump. That was kind of the that was kind of the message that we
That was
forced
quick.
down everybody's throat.
If you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black. Shit, I
Right,
ain't black. I sure didn't
right.
vote for him. I
Well,
ain't vote for Trump either, but I didn't vote for Biden. Set that one out.
Well, well, see, you did the same thing with me on Kemp and
Yeah,
Stacy.
because if I don't believe in you wholeheartedly, then I'm not with the lesser of the two evils because like I'm not gonna be uh listen, let's get deep for a second. I gotta give an accountability to God about how I use my voice. And guess what I'm not gonna say that I chose the lesser of two evils. Father, if you I'm gonna let you decide because guess what? It ain't gonna be my fault.
Well, see,
It ain't
see,
my fault.
see, I don't have to, I don't necessarily have to, like worry about that because I think my destination is already, like kind of sketched in stone. So, I'm going according to my instincts and things that I know that I have done in my life. So I might not have the same outcome. I mean, I might not get a chance. Let's put it this way: I might not get a chance to talk to you in the afterlife. So I'm trying to make as many friends up here now because I know I got a lot of friends now where I'm going. So uh, with that being said, I do want to leave a mark. Uh, Saying, or at least my epitaph would be, he's more than you thought he was. You know, and that's my vindication. But it's also the vindication that I feel and the reputation that I want for my grandkids, my grandkids. I want them to look at me in that admiration, not the fact of, man, you know what he did when he was 20, or after,
I
I'm
mean, I
trying
don't
to.
think you will ever really shake that if it's anything like because when you think about Malcolm X, they never let you to forget the fact that
That
he
he was
was a
Malcolm
pimp.
X.
Yeah, but
He
he
was
was
never
Malcolm
Malcolm
X.
Shabazz. He was
But
always Malcolm X.
they
Uh,
no, they don't let you forget that he was a pimp, that he dated white women before he went super pro black. The same with Muhammad Ali. They don't let you forget that he was Cassius Clay. Um it was somebody else that was on my tip of my tongue and I can't get it out right now. But even Martin Luther King, they don't let you forget that he might have cheated on his wife with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like they try to, as much as they hold on to the greatness, they try to make sure that they remind you. And it's not a bad thing because people grow through stages and learn a lot. When I was in school, I fought a lot. I got expelled for fighting. I was like Mike Tyson. I mean, like I used to fight a lot. But if you experience me now, you wouldn't believe it. You no way you used to fight a lot. Like, yeah, I used to
yeah,
knock a
well, I mean,
nigga
yeah.
out.
Well, well, and also through the years, I've learned, you try not to be someone that you're not. So therefore, I've never hid who I am because all those steps help make me who I am today.
Mhm.
So I have that understanding, and but there, like you said, there was always that stigma that if I came and applied for a youth counseling job, then you know either that little line, have you ever been convicted of a felony, or once you start to talk and I tell you that about my past, then there's automatically those flags that go up. you know you don't know me as a person,
Right.
but because of my background, you put me in the maybe pile at best. you know so a lot of times people, uh you have to go through adversity in order to appreciate the rewards on the other side. For some people, that's religion.
Mhm.
They go through all their things over here, so they don't have to go to hell when they die. You know all the the
Right.
different type. But I still think that at some point you have to be accountable to those that come after you. And right now, I'm looking at 2024, and as I say, I'm looking at Biden and I'm looking at Trump, and uh, uh, I'd probably be like you in this case. I can't vote for neither one of these motherfuckers here. I mean, you, you, you know, I mean, I
Hey,
might
if
write,
that's the ticket, I'm not voting.
I might write my name.
Right.
you,
Why not? At that point, I mean,
you know, but it's as we see, and as you spoke of, as we have more election coming, do you think that the role of the Gen Z is going to be more important? Because I don't think we saw this coming, but do you think that we're going to have more uh, Gen Z people seeking office? And with that, that also means that you have a generation. Let's see, if that's 97, would it be 99 that are going to be voting for the first time for a president in 2024? How
mhm.
do you reach those young people with our old ass, with our old ideas?
Well, and that's why I say a shift is inevitable. You cannot avoid the shift because the generations of voters and people are getting younger and younger. So as the older generation begin to expire or retire, you're going to see a shift. So it's not going to be about really you're not going to be able to get to those people unless you use celebrities. So like when Biden ran and he had all these celebrities going for him, some of that was because they supported him, and some of that was because it's their job. Because sometimes, especially when you're talking about radio shows and different things that the FCC controls, they have to allow candidates onto their show. They cannot not let
Yeah,
people hear
right.
what's going on. It's like by force. So, and it may seem as though they're supporting one candidate or another just by the fact that they're having them on the show, and that isn't always the case. So it's just going to be really right now. I think that Trump giving out the money that he gave to Americans is running in his favor. If he could, this is the same thing that I've said for a long time as far as getting marijuana to be rescheduled. I think that that would go in his favor. If these are his running things, his campaign points. But um, when you
These
talk
are supposed to be
about
the Democratic running points, though, at least so far out here in California, anyway.
no, I
The,
think that they both.
decriminalization of marijuana has always been a Democratic thing. That's kind of the reason, why we have, decriminalization out
Well,
here. Why
no,
we have,
Trump spoke to that at one point in his first term. So it's not I don't think that it's not something that he would do. Although he did say the drug dealers need to go whatever he said about um getting death, but um the funny part about that is that are we talking about all drugs because big farm is the number one pusher. So how they going to play those things, but I'm sure he's talking about like oxy and the things that are right now really destroying um I don't even want to say the community because like the fentanyl don't just kill white people and it don't just kill black people. That it has no color to it. So I
but
think
wait a minute, but hold it, Dr. Casey. Now, see, now look, fentanyl and uh, out here, when I first came out here, I'm trying to think, what did they call that synthetic marijuana that was killing
that
people?
K4 or something
Yeah,
like it was
or whatever it was.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
none of those ever became a problem as long as they were killing black or brown
I
people.
never heard of fentanyl killing black people, except for Michael Jackson. I never heard of it until, like, within the last couple of years, so if it was
or,
going
or,
on, it
or, or,
wasn't like
or,
that.
or, or
Now when you
all
talk
those
about
people in West
heroin,
Virginia, or all those people in West Virginia where the doctor had more prescriptions than the population of the damn town.
I mean, but that is not uncommon, especially in I don't even want to say in urban areas. That's in everywhere. Anywhere that a person can kind of go undetected with breaking the law, then that's going to go in their favor. But when it comes to how to campaign right now, what Joe is going to struggle with is the fact that one, he ain't giving out no money like Trump. And then two, the money that he giving, he sending the shit all the way to goddamn you. He just keep asking for more millions and billions of dollars to send somewhere else when we here are struggling as like as a whole. Um to pay for our livelihood. So those things I think weigh most heavily against Joe Biden. The other thing is that he made a lot of campaign promises, and the student loan forgiveness is one of them that is going to sink him because although you was able to get it approved, there's a lot of people that can't even utilize it because of the lawsuits that's pending saying that it was illegal the way it was done. So it is he got an uphill battle, and Trump got an uphill battle because at the end of the day, Trump still has to fight against all the people that didn't vote for him last time and try to win them over. The only thing that got Trump looking better than Joe is because Joe did such a bad job after pandering to the black community to no avail.
Well, once again, I think that also comes to a lot of people not knowing uh, what the office is about,
Mhm,
because we've had that same argument about Obama. But you can't do, you just can't cut. There are certain things that you can do, and you can just sign the pen, and yes, they're law or they're dismissed. But you also, you don't have the final say, because even if you veto a bill, they can override your veto. It
mhm,
depends upon who has the power. But
mhm.
like you said, I mean, the running on, if
It's
you
a
ain't
lot of smoke
black,
and
you
mirrors.
ain't. If you ain't for black, you ain't for Joe. I mean, to me that was, that
That
was,
threw me off the first time. That's what
yeah.
that was like, oh no, this is Trump.
If it hadn't have been for the fact that he was running against Trump, and I had personal things with Trump, but the company back in the day, then yeah, I would have been turned off by that too. I mean, it's always seemed like that's kind of been the standard cry of the Democratic Party. You know, that they assume that they're going to always have the black vote, and
Mhm.
I've always
I think
thought
that's
that.
gonna shift. Especially, I think what will make it shift is if um the black community begins to understand what the Republican Party was before it became what we see it as today. Like if they look at the history of it and start really getting an understanding of the Democratic Party, the previous Democratic Party and the black Republican Party, I think that they would get a different shift because I don't think that the Democratic Party is really about motivation for self gain and self knowledge and understanding and really pushing people to be the best versions of them. I think the Democratic Party is more contingent upon resting on and relying on a system, which keeps the slave mentality going, where people are codependent on the system versus the Republican Party. Although it seems like it's more for the wealthy, the goal and the mindset from my understanding is to get people from being codependent on the system. But if you really did that, it would change the understanding of the whole ecosystem as a total.
Well, see, if the people, if the people, what are you talking? Yeah, that's chronic is back there. That's chronic back there.
I didn't know you had a cat.
Yeah, I had a cat and a rabbit. The cat he's 14 years old.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
you know, and he likes to come in sometime and smell my clothes. But there's a reason, I mean, he's like, he's been with me for a while, so you know, he's he's hooked. You there's no addiction, but he's hooked. But
Right.
but anyway,
Sound like some
any-
guys I know.
anyway, uh, greetings from Chronic, y'all that can see. But see, if we could believe the words that were written, I agree with you. But I don't see the people that are representing those words on either side really representing their platforms. Now, we've always talked about the two-party system, but is there any way that we can get a viable third-party system in that, especially those that I won't say cater to, but are aware of the needs of the minority communities?
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that it's like a codependent person is always looking for a crutch. And I'm not talking about people that receive Social Security or people that get, like the help that they need because they're literally limited or unable. I'm talking about the people that ride the system, whether it's Section 8, whether it's Section 8 or it is getting food stamps or welfare and Medicaid and all of that. There are some people that will not put forth any effort just because they know that it will mess up their their welfare and their Section 8 and all of those things. It's just almost like the same way that there are people that will um not have a disability and then go in and they will put on a whole dog and pony show to the point to where if you don't go and put on a dog and pony show, they'll almost deny you the disability. Like, what you want me to come in here and you want me to fake it like most people, or you want me to come in here and really explain to you what's going on with me, and so that I can get the help and the resources and the funding that I need to make my life easier for me to be able to function. And so when you think about it like that, you got a lot of people that they milk the system so much to where when it's really a problem, people look at you crazy versus the people that is trying to milk it. Now they look like they really in need, and it's just sometimes it's not as beneficial as it should be. But a lot of that is because you got a system. One side of the system is want you to be codependent. They don't want you to, because the more that they depend on you, the more that they get an excuse for the taxes. The more they get an excuse for a lot of things that the working class people endure that the wealthier people don't endure. And the only reason that they're wealthier most times is because they're taking they have a little bit more opportunities, but they're using those opportunities to advance themselves versus um not. You know what I mean? Like if you don't take advantage of opportunities, then you're going to end up being codependent. It's almost like a woman that would prefer to have a sugar daddy or depend on a man versus a woman that's going to go get her own. She might have the woman that go get her own might have a little bit of a harder time because she's not going to let somebody run her like the person that needs the sugar daddy because they can't function without a person that's, you know what I'm saying, funding they shit. So the mindsets are different, and it's the same way when you think, in my opinion, when I look at the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party, is one that is saying, okay, let's be self sufficient. Let's let let's it's kind of removing people from the system. But if you remove people from the system and they have the resources to learn how to use what's available, then you would get a lot more tax breaks. You would see a lot more people. And let me say this: in today's society, it's easier to learn about the tax breaks and the things that you can do if you are able to become independent. But I also believe that right now, a lot of what we're seeing with layoffs and stuff is because, and even like the tax increases and a lot of changes, is because you got a lot more people that are becoming self sufficient. You got a lot more people that are becoming business owners. So that makes it a little bit more difficult um, for them to control those people. So that means that they're looking for the loopholes and all of that. So it's a lot going on right now that changes the entire dynamic of what we've known as United States of America.
Welcome, Brother Williams.
Yeah, all power to people.
I want to welcome you to the Dr. Casey show because she has absolutely changed the subject of the show all the way around. But we are going to run
Yeah,
with
I
this
did
because
not.
well, you the points that you made are points that we need to talk about, and they're probably points
Hmm.
that the three of us could talk about more than if Miss Sims were here or if Mr. Scott was here. And I'm not saying, I'm the oldest one here, but sometimes I feel like I'm a child compared to the two of them because their ideas seem so goddamn old fashioned to me. But that's another argument for another day.
It's a
So,
Minnesota thing, I'm sure.
so, so, Brother Weaves, we've kind of talked about this before, the two-party system. And one of the things that Dr. Casey brought up were the principles of the Republican Party and the principles of the Democratic Party and how diverse they were. And if we were just going by the words, the Republican Party is actually the party that of self sufficiency.
Yeah, true.
But between the Dixiecrats and everything and the propaganda machine, and if you ain't you ain't black if you ain't voting for Biden, you know. I mean, is it viable to have a third party that tends to look after the needs of minorities, or at least how do we get this? I mean, Dr. Casey kind of makes us feel like ox here. We're kind of, we got that big load on our back and we're pulling the wagon at the same time. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I would definitely say that's what it is, but that just has to do with the masses of the people. Having a third party, I mean, of course, being a Panther, my thing is yes for that. The problem is being able to defeat the other two parties and have enough votes for that to be a reality. And that's why I would say, from that standpoint, it has to be something that is definitely spearheaded from a local position, and then a local demographic rising itself up and working its way outward. Hell, I would think in the area you stay in, Dr. Casey, this would be the case. Kind of like what we see happening in, if I'm not mistaken, in Jackson, Jackson, Mississippi, what they did. Hell, I mean, I even continue to go back to Chokwe Lumumba from the standpoint of it. To me, it was very powerful for them to be able to elect somebody to become the mayor that was part of the Republic of New Africa, whose motto was basically separation, period. And that stance never really changed. But obviously, not long after he got in office, he's dead. And his son took over, but I don't see the same level of power that it was with him at all. Um,
Kind of like Martin Luther King Jr. You got the name, bro, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
When he had the kids, nobody ran with it like that.
yeah, I mean that's it, it's plenty of examples, that we can name off this that falls under that same bracket. But the point I'm getting at is
Did Brother
I don't know
Williams
if he.
freeze up?
I think so. So what I will say why he his um connection fixes itself is that it takes a long time for people to get on board. It's kind of like the best example that I can think of at the moment is fan base. Everybody keeps saying we need a black social media website, a black app, and you got fan base there, and nobody is going over there, but everybody is saying that they want it. So, when you talk about James, I need you to, yeah, thank you. Um, when you talk
No,
about
I had to write that down because I had forgot it last week and I wanted to ask you about it. But now I got fan base. Go ahead.
when you talk about starting a new party, it's how long is it going to take for people to trust in that new mechanism, because it takes a while for people to gravitate to something, even if it's black, even if it's in their favor. It'd be like there's an untrusting portion of
Yeah.
us that don't know, is it gonna work, even though the stuff that's already in place isn't working. We like, I don't know if this new one gonna work though. So it's gonna take a while for it would take a little bit of time for that to catch on. But then a lot of, when you talk about black leadership and trying not to come to an early demise, is making your leadership be touch or go. Like, you kind of got to play the game a certain way just to survive whatever term or establishment that you're trying to do, so that they won't snuff you out, just for the possibility of creating change. We're glad to have you back, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, dealing
Uh,
with this internet.
but can you finish your thought there?
I think basically what I was saying in regards to the third party system is kind of what, like Dr. Casey was saying, is how did you develop the meat and the strength for that third party system? Who was going to run? How do you deal with the politics without marginalizing the majority, so to speak? And so it's almost to where certain things you would have to definitely do a give and take, but at the same time, as you concentrate your power and get in office, some of the policies that or your direction would change as you build up the political party and get more people in office. I kind of see it damn near like the growth, and this is kind of just a case in point, Dr. Casey, like how what we see with a lot of hip hop artists who may start off with gangster rap and then evolve into something that's more solid and founded, that really represents what we should be hearing from a progressive point of view. But it's like, in order to get in the door, you almost have to do
Yeah.
this and then work your way. So I don't see how you cannot be a politician, so to speak, and play the game. You still have to play the game, but as we concentrate our power, then we start revealing our hand more and more, so to speak. To me, that's kind of the direction we have to go.
Mhm.
Now,
Maybe even start off as part of the Green Party or something. I don't know.
well, see, now here's where uh, I think the Democratic Party is playing gangster politics, and this is strictly coming from a criminal point of view because I'm looking at the con here, and I'm looking at Hakeem Jeffries and how they want him to take over Nancy Pelosi's spot.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's 2 years until the election, but for those 2 years, since he's the leader of the minority party, he's going to be constantly in front of cameras, and
Yeah.
people are going to start knowing who he is. And by 2028, white folks will accept him as the next Obama. And in 2028, I think the Democrats are willing to see how this Trump versus Biden plays out for 2024 and kind of do like the Republicans did this election and put all their eggs in one basket, which is going to be Hakeem Jeffries. And it's not going to be well, you ain't black if you ain't voted for Biden, but it's going to be, look what we've done. This is the second coming of Obama. We've given you another black president. Now, I think this is a long term con, but I might be just warped. That might be just all my prison days talking and whatnot. But put me on the right path here, Dr. Casey.
I think. Listen, I really don't know what to make of what's to come just yet. I am very subjective when it comes to politics and how things will pan out, because right now we're in a place where we really don't know, just based on the narrative of the young people, really honestly, because young people are, they're very much more outspoken than ever before. They have a lot of complex views. It's a lot of things that is acceptable now that wasn't previously acceptable. There's a lot of people that are fighting battles that weren't previously fought, that people were previously ashamed of. So all of those things change the dynamic. Earlier you asked like what is going to be the 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 campaign stretch, and a lot of it is going to be talking to young people, is going to be taking on a new view of things. Whether it has to do with the same sex marriages, sexuality in general, and general acceptance. But it's one of those things, whenever I think about politics or who's going to run and who's going to be best suited, it's going to be like a sifting, because it's going, who's going to be able to withstand the cancel culture, the controlled culture, because a lot of things that are going on now is, we are, y'all hurt our feelings because you said something that we don't necessarily want to hear. And it's an oversensitivity to a lot of things. So that in itself will change the dynamic, because if everybody is sensitive and everybody's feelings getting hurt all the time, then it's going to be who is squeaky clean enough to be able to hold weight long term. Because like, literally, you got people that's on Twitter, even though I know that Twitter is up under a lot of turmoil right now. You got people that go and they look up things that you said in the past just to hold it against you in the future. So it's going to be who has had a, I want to say, a stable mind, a objective mind, um, more than anything else, because a lot of what hurt Biden before was some of his old policies and some of the things that people weren't really feeling, but they were so against Trump that they just felt like they had to vote for Biden. But there were a lot of people, and I think this may have played into why um, people are more disappointed now, because there are a lot of people that didn't want to vote for Joe just because of his previous crime bills and all of those things, but then they felt forced to do it. So now there is a huge battle, because what you gonna do now, Joe?
Yeah, Brother Williams, out here in California, we had a diversion of the vote, uh, not just between Trump, but there was also, uh, as with most large cities here in California, a big Hispanic and Asian vote
Yeah.
that was also thrown into the mix. And a lot of the, I mean, this is
Predominantly
California. A
Hispanic.
lot of those Spanish, like you say, this is predominantly Spanish.
Hmm.
So, I mean, when you talk about percentage, you know, they actually have a chance, to do more political wise than we do. But once again, you start talking about allies and crossing over lines. I mean, are these some places where we should be working harder? With our Hispanic and Asian communities, or is it best to build up our communities? Uh, uh, I don't want to say fortify in the sense of arms and political lines, but at least fortify at least as far as knowledge of self, self reliance, and the ability to run our own neighborhoods.
Well, see, this is the unfortunate thing about our situation because our percentage and our numbers are so low. We have no choice but to be trying to align with them. But in doing so, what we need to be doing is doing that to a point to where we can make our voice heard through one of these some of these other communities by getting them to help raise us up to certain levels in terms of individuals that can represent from our community and get us just as much accepted as they are behind their numbers, but us not having the numbers, but us still falling under from a political standpoint, falling under the whole thing as being a minority in positions of power for the sake of the transition of what's going on with California, because California is on that path to where white people are only going to begin to be the real minority. And so, with that being the situation, we have to put ourselves in sync with the ones that are predominantly becoming in positions of power. Otherwise, what will continue to happen is what we see happening with them being more racist than the white people in San Diego. And so we have to start nudging at that dynamic. Otherwise, all things is going to do is get worse for us because with them not having the connection to racism as the Europeans have to connection to racism and the connection to enslavement, their thing is strictly coming from a prejudiced viewpoint, which is a lot harder to shake because they're attempting to impress the the white minority at this point, but at the same time are co-opting and adopting the behavior pattern of the white minority. And when it's happening like that, then that emulation alone would cause them to shut their ears to the reality and to the truth of what actually is going on when it comes to racism. Because their whole thing at that point would be tying it into, hey, we fought, constantly fighting to get across the borders. We constantly work the low end jobs. We constantly, are pushing ourselves super hard while y'all over there whining and complaining. And so, not getting, in essence, what we've been through as a people and the trauma that it has caused and the hidden aspect of racism, they emulate a lot of the talk and a lot of the responses or reactions of the white counterparts. And so we have to start getting them to see the backstory. And as we do that and get in good favor with them, then we have to start working ourselves through that system. And to me, that is the situation what we're forced to have to do here in San Diego because our numbers are small. I don't see
The
no other way on that.
the crazy part is that I hear is that Africans feel the same way about American black people who um
Mhm.
complain more than they actually put in work because they feel like, well, we come over here and we, work like a slave, and get through it. But what you said about the Hispanics, and the other minority groups is that they fall in the same stratosphere to me as poor white people. They don't realize that they are kind of equivalent to us. They
What do you
just have a
mean,
different.
kinda? You mean kinda? There's no kinda. You can eliminate the kinda part. They are like us.
I mean,
They just don't know it,
But
but they are
but
like
that's
they
us.
but
why that's where the kinda comes in at because they don't know it.
yeah, but the whole thing is that they don't identify with the skin or at racism aspect or African aspect. They identify with it from the standpoint of just looking at capitalism and how white people constantly push themselves, or should I say white men push themselves in certain positions. So
Well,
they are willing to play the game, and when they play the game, it's not like how it would be when we play the game to where, for instance, we're quick to be called a sellout. You don't necessarily hear that same talk with them.
Well, that
You know,
goes back to what we was talking about as far as why diversity isn't in the police force because people don't want to
mm,
be sellouts.
yeah,
And you're exactly right. Other minority groups don't look at each other as sellouts. They look at it as a stepping stone.
yeah,
And for us, we have too much pride or
yeah,
something that makes us feel like, well, we're too good for that, or too good for certain things. And then we wonder why other minorities come in and they build and outbuild and outgrow,
yeah.
and outpopulate sometimes because they are putting their best foot forward. Now, I hear a
Right.
lot of people talk about, like have how a lot of Hispanics have their whole family living together and then they build like that. But the instability of the Black community when it comes to family dynamics and mental health will not
Hmm.
always allow that. It's not always pride. Sometimes
Oh
it
yeah.
is the trauma that has been involved that does not allow for us to cohabitate. And the biggest problem that we have as a group, in a community is tackling our trauma because we
Mhm.
feel like if we tackle or mention trauma, that means weakness or that means
Yeah.
that we are something less than or something must be wrong with us. And some of that is the engineering of the system and the way they used to put everybody in a crazy house if they had something going on, and they over medicate people who have mental health issues. So that throws the people that have mental health issues off sometimes. And then you also have to look at the spirituality of our culture and who we are as people, because it's a lot of spiritual things that we have, and gifts and the abilities that senses that we have been deemed evil, that have been labeled with mental health illnesses that aren't always mental health illnesses. Because guess what? If a person is a spiritually inclined soul and they have intuition, there are some people that will call you crazy if you listen to it, or if you get a nudge, or when I think about mediumship or any of the spiritual aspects of life, a lot of times it has been labeled with mental diagnosis. So even if you did have some spiritual constraints or spiritual qualities, let's say that, they'll medicate them out of you to where if you wasn't crazy, guess what? You gonna be crazy because
Now,
all the
yeah.
stuff that they giving you. So it's a lot of things that we are up against, as a culture as Black people, because of the stigma that comes behind addressing the real issues. And a lot of the real issues come from, again, trauma, come from just generations of hurt. So a grandmother got hurt, so she hurt the daughter who hurt the granddaughter, who, if they're not conscious of it, they'll hurt the next generation. So it doesn't give the opportunity for healing, especially because we live in a we have don't ask, don't tell in the Black society is not about being gay, or the LGBT community. It's about the trauma that we face. Because if we don't say nothing, then we can't address it. But a lot of people are so afraid and ashamed to ask, well, what happened here or what happened there, that it leaves a lot of things unaddressed. So it's like, again, it's such a subjective subject when you talk about how do we really become better and how do we heal the community, and how do we connect with other minority groups, because the challenges that are faced are a lot different, for each minority group.
Hmm.
See now, when I was young, and I
Mhm.
mean really young, like say 6, 7, 8, I believed in what you were saying. That some people are uh, talk to spirits. Some people have a lot of spirituality. And then I went to the Baptist church,
Well,
and
we
everybody
talk about
talked to
conditioned
God.
people though, but we're talking.
My father told me that God came to him and talked to him in the closet. Biggest goddamn hypocrite. Well, anyway.
Listen,
What,
listen.
what,
There is manipulation in every system that has been given to us. The true understanding of spirituality is far more greater than anything that you will find out ever in church, because everything that is true to our ancestry and heritage has been told to us that is evil, and we're devil
Hmm.
worshiping.
Yep.
Whether we're talking about burning candles, lighting incense, and we could be lighting frankincense and myrrh. Frankincense and myrrh was in the Bible, you know.
yes,
But
yes.
if you do anything that is not within that Christian box or not what's approved of, then they'll tell you it's evil. So they'll condemn you and make you feel bad for practicing spirituality, for getting the understanding. You ain't even got to practice it, just getting the knowledge to understand what spirituality is condemned, because you're not supposed to read anything but the Bible. So it's
Right.
hard for people to really understand who they are. They think that they got a demon. No, you got a spiritual gift that you're not addressing, so it's kind of haunting you because you're not listening to what the what God has placed inside of you. So now it's manifesting as a depression or manifesting
Hmm.
as a hypervigilance, because God is trying to use the gift that is within you. We all have God within us. We are, I mean, like the spirit of God is breath, literally. So it's a matter of understanding who we are as individuals so that we can understand the spiritual aspect of us. Now, as Black people, African Americans, indigenous people, however you want to call it, we are more spiritually inclined, in my opinion, than a lot of other groups. But because we are spiritually inclined, we have a lot more warfare, spiritually, mentally, and then definitely from the system, because they don't want us to know. Listen, if we came to knowledge of who we are spiritually, it would change the dynamics of everything. Because when you think about medicine, medicine is the same chemistry that they say witchcraft is them putting stuff together to make a potion to give you to fix whatever it is going on with you. That's the same thing that they call witchcraft, outside of, what society says is right, is everything that they have artificially created to mimic the spiritual world and to mimic the things that they probably learned and got from our ancestors, that now and then deem us crazy when we are understanding things that they hadn't taught us.
Miss Sims, how are you doing this evening?
Greetings are sorry to be running late, but here I am.
Yeah, I know you just come in. You just come in here to poke the bear, and then how are you feeling this evening? Tell us what's going on there in Minnesota.
Um, I'm running a little slow. The last couple of days, the snow finally left the area, but here I am. I mean, it's been kind of quiet. I think.
Has there been any solution to the George Foreman situation? Has there been anything coming out of the office now that you've had new re-elections? Are there any improvements in the education system? I know it's just a few days afterwards, but are any of the candidates out there talking?
I think along the political realm, it's still fairly early in the game. But my understanding, I haven't dove back into politics like to the length and depth that I normally do. But I think the since all three houses here, state houses, are now Democratic, that they're still celebrating in regards to that, in regards to both the governor, the House of Representatives here, and state Senate are all Republican. I mean, all Democratic now, and it hasn't been that way in years. It seems like that I heard, and so I think people are the political level are reveling in that, but still, I think uh, people like me are watching. They still have a responsibility. It still needs to go beyond just what they think they should do, just as the few of them over at the Capitol are. And so it's going to be interesting, but I think now is the time for people here again not to step back. like a lot of human behavior is politically, that when people get in office that they want to, they kind of step back and watch. But now's not the time. We are in continue to be in various battles, so now is not the time to step back and watch while others, lay their claim of power and things like that. And so it's going to be interesting.
When I was talking to Dr. Casey and Brother Robert before you came on, we were talking about the influence of the young voters on our election, especially this last one, where uh, you know they maintained democratic control of the Senate while just losing the minimum amount of uh, seats in the House. But we were talking about the actual platforms of the two parties and what the Republican platform is, as opposed to the Democratic platform of uh, more or less welfare and giveaways. Uh,
Is that?
but
I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish. Go ahead and
but
finish.
if when you think of it as a black person, do you think that the actual policies, not the practice, but the actual policy of what these parties are supposed to stand for, that the Republican Party is really the party that we should be looking at to unite with, or do you think that we should seek a third party whose main concerns is that of minorities?
Although the three aspects platforms are the subjects that you just named for each segment. Is this what you feel is going on?
No, 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 no. I want you to read the actual platforms of what each party is supposed to stand for. The Republican Party stands for self-reliance and very little government interference, whereas the Democratic Party kind of makes you a dependent upon the system because they control the economics of the system. You don't have control of your own economics. And that's why I said, you have to kind of read the platform of both parties, not what they're practicing, but what they were originally meant to stand for.
Well, here's where an example of how I meant in terms of uh, the rest of us, the elected, the people elected, can't stand back and just watch uh, what and not be involved, because on the surface level, that those platforms may be out there, because just say the what you just named as the Republican platform in terms of less government, just take that part of it. And the behavior certainly hasn't exhibited that less government, because that's their thing in terms of being in there. Even January the 6th. I mean, that says all government. That doesn't mean less government. And so you have to really think about it, be involved, get clarity on what's going on, the message, the difference between the message and the behavior of what each party is doing. And then you can't stay withdrawn, just like the Georgia's state house election. People, because the Senate, the Senate, the Democrats seem to be in control of the Senate, so people can't say that the Georgia election doesn't matter. It matters tremendous. It matters at a tremendous level, because the Republicans are still, remember what I said, strategy, power, control. The the Republicans are building strategy, constantly strategizing, and so they're strategizing, looking forward to the next presidential election. And so we could lose anytime you could lose members of the Senate. Somebody could get sick. Somebody could decide that they're going to become Republican, et cetera, et cetera. So you never want to feel a comfort level in things like this, especially when you don't win by a large margin, when you're just winning by a couple people. So you can't just sit back and not be involved. The Georgia elections are even more crucial, are just as crucial as before, because you got all, you just can't think at the and stop at the surface level of what we can see with our eyes. You have to always think about behind the scenes. There's more going on. There's always, you have to always be mindful of what the power behind the power is doing. And when I say power behind the power, we have that visible power, and then that we can see and hear from. And then we have that strategic power that's behind the scenes, that's been in Congress for years, that knows how to, what buttons to push, who to get favors from, and things like that. So never sit back. When you're in a battle, you never sit back and watch what others are doing and saying.
Dr. Casey, when she speaks about people behind the scene, and you talk about the Senate, and you talk about the runoff, the Democrats say that they have the majority with 51. But does anybody know the politics of Joe Manchin? What is Joe Manchin? Is he a Democrat? Is he a Republican? I mean, do the Democrats really have a majority, Dr. Casey?
I, I don't even know who Joe Manchin is, but I think that it's
He's the senator from West Virginia that did all he could to block the bills of Joe Biden, especially the what's the one that had to do with the rebuilding of the roads and putting in
infrastructure.
internet and all. Yeah, infrastructure. And like I said, he's the senator from West Virginia, the third poorest state in the United States. But his company owns a third of the coal mines in West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yep.
So I mean, I'm just saying.
Money talk. So I don't know if the Democrats really have again, when you talking about Republican versus Democrats, they kind of gonna blow smoke up whoever ass is willing to let them to blow the smoke up there, because um, they need you to believe in their side. It's like, we could say that we're above. It's almost like, I could think of so many different things where it's like, okay, well, we're doing better, but are you? It's like, listen to the radio station. Every radio station say they the number one radio station. But who's really the number one? If everybody is like, yeah, they're number one radio, well, then nobody's really number one. They just, blowing smoke up your ass and making you feel like they the number one. It's
And you down with what's going on. I listen to the number one.
yeah. But especially in that's the best example that I can use, because here in Atlanta, you got V103, you got Hot 107.9, you got 94.5. Those are the three major radio stations. But everybody say that they the number one urban radio station. Who's really the number one radio station? Everybody say they got the top radio show, but nobody can really determine who has the top radio show or who's the number one radio station. Everybody just say that they are. And 1 month you might seem like you got enough ratings or a lot of ratings, but the next month it may vary. It's kind of like when you talk about the Democratic Party. Sometimes it'd be like, oh yeah, this is what is ranking at. This is how people feel. This is the poll that we did to figure out what people think. But then the next week or the next month, the poll say something totally different. So it's one of those shifting things. It's not really something that I believe can be really measured. Because one, people shift, people's mindsets change. People may be one way 1 minute and then something happened and then they flip and they're somewhere someplace else mentally. So it's really about who actually makes things happen, that will determine who really is in control. But the things that are not happening for the people that are getting the promises.
What do you think there, brother Robert? I mean, I don't. We've even had Larry Elder run for governor out here. I mean, I don't know if we're the state that really should be pointing out to anything, but what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing is to me again, it just kind of goes back to the idea of playing the game. You tell the people what they need to hear. You
Hmm.
preach being bipartisan from that standpoint of being someone going back to what you was talking about with Joe, someone that is able to jump across the aisle for the sake of what's right for the people and what's right for getting things done, but then run on this ticket and then you go back and forth as much as you can, and then you lock certain things down to be a hardliner on one thing that at least gives you the stamp of running under this specific party. And that kind of even goes back into what I was talking about with the politics of dealing with a third party system. Is ultimately it's about trying as a politician, trying to show the people that you represent them. And when you align with a specific party and run under that ticket, the idea is that if for that party, they have to look at what value do you bring to the Republican or the Democratic Party. Will you get us these votes? So it's a popularity contest more so than it is really about what you really represent. If they feel that you can be used to keep them, get more of them in office, more of them elected, push more of they specific policy, then they all for you. And that's what it's about. As that individual operating under whichever party system they operating under, now they have to play the game as to how much of themselves is really about this party or that party or this policy of that party, and how much of them are really for the actual people and the actual results and actually making change. Because whether you're looking at it from a Democratic or Republican side, neither one of them wants to be too swift, too much outside of what Donald Trump did. The majority of them want to just only be lukewarm and keep things going and operating the way they operated. And I think that's kind of going back to what you was asking earlier, stating earlier about Hakeem. I think the thing is it would take another Trump coming of Trump coming in office and winning president election in 2024 for him to be on the ticket. I don't think he would be the president, but I can damn sure see him as running as a vice president, and that and possibly being able to let that be part of the Democratic ticket. I have no idea who the Democrats can have it at that point in time, because going back to what something Sims stated, where I see the Democratic Party is I see the Republican Party being strategic and lining things up a certain way, and I see the Democratic Party in reaction mode and basically being tactical in having to figure things out on the fly and just try to do enough to basically keep everybody voting for them from the standpoint that you don't want this other guy. and
Hmm.
and I see, and to me that's just a cluster. That's it's messed up that that's the state of affairs that we in, but that's where we are.
We're, we're,
And
we're, we're, we're on adult time now. You can use uh, language. This is what we were talking about was Mr. Hakeem Jeffries
yeah,
and how Nancy Pelosi has, kind of made him her successor. And my point was that by 2024, he'll have that job for 2 years, and he'll be in the spotlight. People will get to know who he is. They'll be used to seeing him. In 2028, he will run for some type of Doctor. Brother Williams said vice president. I said that the Democratic Party will push him forward in 2028 as the second coming of Obama, and they will use uh, his color as well as his platform to justify uh, whoever voting for him against whoever he's running against, especially if they lose the 2024 election. What's your thoughts? Is Hakeem really a uh, token, or is he really being groomed for the job of president? What would that be? 30? Let's see. No, 45. That would be what? 49. Either 49 or 50.
Well, what you described in looking ahead, I in regards to this particular person, I guess I'm not looking far that far ahead in regards to his um his career moves or his support, because number one, with politics anything could change, and I think what will drive the presidential elections next year, I mean 24 and beyond, I think a lot in this moment in time, a lot of what the Senate will do uh, will influence the who, or what, and why in regards to moving forward. I know that one thing, as Robert was speaking of, he described what goes on not only now in politics, but all politics, not only here in the United States, but nationally. No matter what kind of government you're in, you have people struggling to take the power. But I do know, and I was thinking about I forget the man from New York that was speaking in his run for a Speaker of the House, and what came
Hakeem,
to
Hakeem Jeffries.
Jeffries. Okay, I started to say Jeffries. It kind of reminded me of when Obama was coming up, and people were talking about him becoming president, et cetera, et cetera. One of my friends, I was over her house at one time, and she said, Black folk used to get things when they're broken. And at that time, when Obama became president, I mean, a lot of the state of affairs of Congress and just generally in this country were broken per se. And I kind of see Jeffries, if he becomes Speaker of the House, it's kind of like the same scenario in terms of, I think the House is broken in some manner in terms of their power and their influence and things like that. And normally what she said, and historically looking back, what she said was true. When politically, I know when things hit the fan, when nobody knows which way to go, this and that, usually it's the time when people are willing to let the Black man get in there and be the leader, et cetera, et cetera. And if the Black man doesn't come through, I mean, you could always blame
the Black man.
on him or whoever's in power at the time, Black, green, or purple people eater. And so a lot, I think, is riding on what the Senate will do and can do. And if they don't take their power and their control and use it in wisdom and the best route to go, they're going to sit. They will be setting the precedents for going forward. And it's an example of what I said, the power behind the power, and we see it, and it just irks me when I see how Lindsey Graham is doing everything he can to promote this black man who I judge and many other people isn't competent to be in that political position. But because the Republican Party is strategizing, and part of the strategy is putting people out there who they think can win. And so he's out there. I mean, that man is almost in tears, begging and black folk to put Walker in when we know that his competency, and he's even trying to say black folks control how black folk should vote and this and that, and trying to put the guilt card out there and things like that because and this is another reason why I say don't rest your laurels, because the numbers say that the Republicans are in power in the Senate. People,
you mean in the House?
I mean,
in the House.
Yeah.
No, in the Senate at the congressional level.
No, in the Senate, the Democrats are ahead.
No,
they have 51 seats.
Okay, I may have misspoken. How the Democrats are in control, but the power behind the power is still struggling and strategizing and pushing this person to be who they want to be to go to Congress, because they see that they're desperate. They're desperate, but they see they're desperate and wanted to build power. And anytime the white conservatives in the South are practically begging black folk to do something, something's up, something crucial is up. So all who want, no matter if you're third party or not, if you can say, here's where some people might have to hold their nose and vote non-Republican. Here's where we're in desperate times and desperate needs, because we can see what's going on, and a lot of people, even though they will deny the reality of what's going on and still vote for Walker, the Republican Party. And so things right now, we're in a defining moment in regards to behind the scenes stuff. Now, the power behind the power, just like when Trump was running, people thought that he wouldn't become president. But the power of the good old boys, the power behind the power, knows what needed to be done. And a lot of people forget that the Electoral College, I mean, how much power they have. And a lot of people may not even be familiar with what the Electoral College can do in regards to, going. I mean, they can outvote or overrule what the populace say. And so why I say it behooves us to understand what's going on and what can go on. And so as I listened to some of the things that I saw, Lindsey Graham out big and almost, in tears, pushing Herschel Walker down people's throat, it kind of reminded me, as I said before, when Clarence Thomas was up to become a Supreme Court judge, how the Republican Party, I think Danforth, maybe his name is John Danforth, he was a white politician. That man, he did the Lindsey Graham thing right now in regards to getting Thomas on the Supreme Court, because at that time, I don't remember exactly, but I think when if Thomas was put on the Supreme Court, that meant there would have been more Republicans than the Democrat Party had put on Congress, and that who would be in control. And you saw when Thomas did become a judge, how things have played itself out, because they strategized to get who they wanted in there. And if you remember, For years, Thomas wouldn't say anything in public. I mean, in the public regarding, when the Supreme Court were doing their things. You never heard Thomas speak anything for years and years. And a lot of people couldn't understand why. But to me, I always thought that he kept his mouth shut. That was payback for the Republicans getting him on the Supreme Court, and because he was a lot of controversial things surrounded him at the time, and I still believe in Anita Hill. Always say that, but that was one of the
Before
things
me,
to get him on there. They did everything they could to get him on there because they were thinking strategically of what they want to do in years to come, and they did it.
Dr. Casey, after listening to Miss Sims, the only thing I can ask you is why there's still monkeys.
I don't have no word, no comment, no comment.
The runoff is coming. uh, as she said, Lindsey Graham. You see most of the conservative wing of the Republican Party. How concerned are you about Herschel Walker actually getting in office?
I mean, listen. Regardless of who actually gets in office, it's going to be what it's going to be. Um, do I think that it makes a huge difference? No. It's what Miss Sims called it's a strategy. It's all about strategy. So no matter who really gets in office, again, like I told y'all last week, it doesn't matter because we don't see the change.
Yeah.
Until we see changes, it don't matter who in office. What changes are happening that are substantial enough to say it really makes a difference? Because the narratives that are pushed are not really as different as we would like to believe there are. They are. It's just a little bit more complex in explanation in order for people to understand. So guess what? If you don't know politics, which most people don't, they could say anything. The narrative doesn't really change based on who's in office. It's how easy will they be able to push whatever narrative that they're trying to push more so. Because if you get somebody like Senator Warnock, he's going to be a little bit more resistant to pushing things that go against his moral compass versus Herschel Walker. I don't know if he has a moral compass at this point. But um,
Or
I'm
even a
not worried.
compass at that.
You probably have to explain to him
Moral
what
compass.
you probably have to explain to him what that is, and
Yeah,
give
moral
a
compass.
dictionary. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
'cause he's definitely not the most intellectual person, and there is no way to hide that. But the Republican Party is more about manipulation, anyways. Well, not just the Republican Party, the Democratic system in itself is about manipulation. So he's just an easier puppet and pawn to be manipulated to help manipulate the people. But excuse me, I don't think that Senator Warnock, although I believe he's probably a great guy, I don't think that he's above manipulation or being manipulated to feed the system. It just has to come a different way when you're dealing with somebody that's not um, as clueless as Herschel.
Yeah, he's a walking, living color skit wherever you want to go. But Brother Williams, what's your thoughts on? I talked a little bit about this earlier. Uh, we have the squad, which a lot of these people condemn,
Hmm.
but they're all around 50ish. None
Right.
of them are over the age of 50, I believe. You have Hakeem Jeffries, who's just hitting the age of 50. And then you have these Gen Z voters that are just getting ready to start to vote. By the time we had the election, people that were born in 1999 will be able to vote. As the voting base gets younger, do you see the stranglehold of the generation of me and Miss Sims? Do you see our generation losing the stranglehold that we have on politics and it possibly becoming a field that is more fair and equal because of the attitude of people like you and Dr. Casey?
Well, to me, it's kind of hard to say whether or not the stranglehold, because what I see, and I think Casey spoke on this earlier, is the younger generation leading more with their emotional state and getting more involved into identity politics. What I see shifting is the interest of the American people being manipulated. And by shifting the interest of the American people and what matters as it applies to politics, to me, that leaves more for kind of going back to your generation when we talk about the Supreme Court. It has more so to me where that element of power will be able to have more of an influence or more of an impact, because you got a younger generation that are moving in, that are taking things to that level, and then it then happen to be determined by those people that are of an older generation to say this is the way this case is going to go, or this is how we're going to deal with that. So I kind of see the balance coming in between that. But to me, the identity politic aspect of it is a dangerous place to be, because I personally see that leading into why the United States is going to be stripped of its position of being the top dog in world power, because this thing that applies more so to individual personalities is going to be used. I think will get used against the United States, and actually from a standpoint of possibly showing how the democratic system, not just the Democrats, but the democratic system has its flaws by not having a dictator, by not having a position to where a strong Pacific stance will remain in power. And so that might actually end up biting us in our ass. That's how I
Mm.
see it.
Hmm. But in our present state, wouldn't that be just another gray-haired old white man?
It would. But when it's like, for instance, but when you're talking about, the squads, so to speak, I don't see enough of us in enough places. I don't see enough of us in enough. That again, that's why I went back to talking about the whole aspect of us getting to a point, and I say that all oftentimes with the Panther Party, is getting to a point to where we are raising up enough of us at any given time, because that it to me still is just a thorn, so to speak, but it's not enough power. It's not enough real power.
Well, Miss Sims, I'm gonna put you in a position that our generation has been in a long time. Last hired, first fired. Give us your last words for tonight.
I disagree with Dr. Casey in regards to it does matter who you vote for. It does matter for us staying in there. It does matter that you need to remember that this is just, it's always been not only here, but nationwide, I mean, globally, it does matter. Remember, when you vote a person in, you are voting a party in and its politics and its beliefs. You just don't vote that person in, and that one person decides everything. All decisions are in his hand. It doesn't work that way. So that's why it does matter who you vote in. And when Robert was speaking up, I have thought of how globally other people, leadership, how they are looking at the United States now and the things that they're going, that the United States is struggling with, and the topics that they bring up. And I do believe that even now some of the United States has, even if it's not action wise, has lost some of its credibility and standing in regards to world politics because people are looking, looking to see what's going on here, although they have their own problems per se. But here, the United States is supposed to have been a power leader, and in terms of the generations, I think we're watching the youth as the youth come in, the younger generations comes in. It's the changing of the guard in terms of their interest in as they come in. They not only bring their younger age, but here again their interest in what's going on. And one of the things that youth up here in terms of what they're dealing with, what they believe in, is the worldwide climate change and the environment. They believe, and they really should be, care about what's going on globally and nationally and locally in regards to the climate and things of that. And one of the things that one of the strategies that I think the younger generation and our generation, James, we should be caucusing together in regards to supporting each other's interests in regards to moving things ahead and remaining in power. Because I think a lot of the older and seniors, we believe that things are changing globally in environmentally and et cetera, et cetera. I think the middle age group, maybe not. So it seemed not to be as concerned in the way they talk and some of the things that they do or don't do. And here's the chance for the younger generation and the senior generation to if they're caucusing and support each other, as a way to get our particular causes attention paid to in advance. Because our generation, James, we're in a position of kind of looking back and seeing that we have birthed these we are grandparents, a lot of grandparents to younger generation that's coming up and have interest in things like that. And looking back, we're kind of see the people that we help come into the world, help their parents. We birthed their parents. We sent them to school to get educated. And now, if we don't stay involved, we're going to see potentially our own family members do us in. That's why I said it does matter what people are saying, who you elect, and things like that. So it is, to me, it is a determining moment in time for the United States and what we believe in, not only humanistically, but just as surviving. Surviving means continuing to go along and staying alive and supporting things. The environment sustains us for staying for being alive. If we don't care about things that help keep us living and breathing, I mean, how stupid can you be? You're committing sabotage and suicide if you don't believe in and take care of what's helping keep you alive.
I'm going to jump in here and give my last words, and I'm going to leave it to Dr. Casey and Brother Williams, because you said something there that kind of hit a nerve, Miss Sims, when you talk about surviving. I survived a war. I should not have to come back to the richest country in the world and have to survive. In the richest country in the world, everyone, regardless of their color, their religion, everyone should have an equal ability to thrive.
I agree.
We have accepted being survivalists as a badge of honor. We have to stop doing that. That's what our generation did. The new generation is not going to accept that BS. we have to bring a new sense of pride. We also have to bring a new sense of reality of
Yeah.
what we stand for as a people.
Yeah.
Dr. Casey, Dr. I mean, Brother Robert, whichever one of y'all want to go, and then we'll sign off.
And we
Let
can't
me
do what all you said if we
So
sat back and keep our mouths shut. Sorry, I'm sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
I'll go. Um, so first I would like to address Miss Sims. Miss Sims, what changes have we seen despite who in office? I want to see what from the last 50 years, what changes can we say the Democrats made versus the Republicans made that really made a difference in a major way? Because despite who's in charge, black people don't have relief, the poor white people don't have relief. I mean, the Asians, they get their little bill signed. A lot of people getting bill signs, but the real change that's needed has not come about. So although you think that it matters, it hasn't been productive as of yet in the last 50, 60 years.
I still
So
disagree.
until there is change that we can see, feel, and understand, you can disagree. That's fine. Until we can see changes that we can actually tangibly experience, then we're just playing along in the game of the system that they already got in motion. We're not really making no hiccups in what they already, the way the system is set up is to run itself. We just putting puppets in place. It's like uh, if you get GI Joe dolls and you say, okay, what's the next GI Joe doll we gonna play with today? You just putting the next person, the next doll, the next figurehead in position. It's almost like the president. It does not matter who is president if they don't actually control everything that the country has going on. It's just another body that be the face of what we see happening. We got a lot of faces of what we see happening, but no changes because the system is what's in control. We just see a lot of faces, just like board members and CEOs. Guess what? They change all the time. But if you don't change the core of the system and the structure of the company, then it doesn't matter who's on the board nor who's the CEO. Because guess what? They can vote the CEO out. They can take somebody off the board at any given time. It's just like if you go and invest in the stock market, guess what? They're gonna send you a little thing every quarter to say, we need your vote. You can vote, but guess what? The company's gonna do what the company is gonna do. At the end of the day, the United States of America is a business. It is a company that is ran by a system that is controlled by people we may not even see on the forefront. So you can put whoever you want to on the forefront to be seen, but who's backing them? You know who's backing them? Whoever got the most money, because it don't matter if it's a Democrat or if it's a Republic, if they both taking the same damn check. And most of the time, they both getting the same offers for the same check by the same people. So no matter who's in that seat, if the same lobbyists, if the same companies, if the same people are paying them the same thing, now one might get a little bit higher if they're gonna do it a little bit different than the other company, than the other politician may get. But it's the same people backing these people. It's just a little. It's a different view of who's being backed. But somebody is financially backing them to push whatever thing that they're trying to push. So the people that we see, they're puppets. So it don't matter what puppet you put, who's the puppeteer.
Those red
You gotta know the
Kanye showed you the
period.
red lines. Sometimes
Yeah,
sometimes you have to believe your eyes. Sometimes, not always, because they tell us our eyes lie too. But sometimes,
I mean,
when
it,
everything
there,
is red,
when
go
I
ahead, Doctor
worked
K.
at a tax, I worked at a tax law firm once, and that's when I learned about lobbyists and how lobbyists work and how they go in and they push for whatever it is that they want to happen. If they wanted some of the things to happen for real, we've had control of House and Senate a number of times for some real shit to happen, and nothing happens. So yeah, it sounds good to say our vote matters. It doesn't if you're talking about the electoral college, because I actually went and studied how the electoral college work, and they can do whatever the hell they want to do.
Whatever they
That's
want.
just like the Congress. Yeah, but if that's how the electoral college works, then that is the same thing on every other level. There is somebody that can do whatever the hell they want to do if they want to do it. The problem is the system doesn't want the changes that we really need to see because it does help the system. It's just like I told James earlier. If we really start trying to help people stand on their own too, the system will, because they need us to be codependent so that it works. If we are
Yep.
not codependent, the system don't work.
There you go.
That's the whole way the system structure is for us to be codependent, because as long as they look like they fighting for codependency and non-codependency, then they winning. Because guess what? We think that they really fighting. They really work for the same damn system. It's like if you got a defense attorney and a goddamn judge and a goddamn prosecutor, they all work for the court system. It don't matter what they do. They all
And
get
when you,
paid by the same
I,
court system at the
and
end of the
I
day.
can vouch that when you pay one, you pay them all.
You are
I can
paying
tell you,
them all. It is not one.
it's
One is not
talk about
without the other. One
talk
does
about
not survive
the
without the other. So
the trickle down system is the criminal justice system is the only one I know where it works. But maybe that's just me. But Brother
one
Williams,
doesn't
take us
survive
home.
without the
Oh,
other.
go ahead.
If you stop the Republican Party, then you stop the Democratic Party. The goal, and my last thing that I will say, is focus on getting the information so you understand what's really going on, and then educate yourself on yourself and get more knowledge so that you can at least prepare yourself for what you want to do. Because if you're dependent on the system, your ass out of luck.
Well, I, I'm gonna take a page from Dave Chappelle when he was on the Saturday Night Live the other day, and I'm gonna say this: the elite see the masses as being observably stupid. We must start being concerned about the real difference between an answer and a solution. Politics, as it is played, is based around answers for the public, and solutions are embedded problems that we craft in order to present solutions that are around the corner. And that's the game. And so from that, it's all about perception. And the illusion is to keep us basically in a cycle of feeding our wants and our views as opposed to what reality really is. And it's the sooner we learn to be able to, like I said earlier, to see the difference between what a solution is as opposed to what an answer is, the more we'll start seeing between the veil of what is really being done in politics. And I think because the masses of the people are operating on that observably stupid mentality, it is so easy to just feed us answer after answer after answer, and we just keep running with the status quo. And that's how I'm going in.
Uh, did you want to make a last remark there, Miss Sims?
Um, as Dr. Casey was speaking in regards to how she saw things, one of the things that cross, and especially when you said for people need to gain knowledge, etc., etc. One of the things that I thought of as she was speaking, um, and especially when she was saying how nothing changes, everybody's the same, etc., etc. I wondered how she saw herself in what was going on.
Oh, you got to come earlier for that, Miss Sims. We talked about that all day.
Okay, that was just what I just that was just
But
what I
can,
was
can
wondering.
you give her a short answer, Dr. Casey?
And I think the pessimistic things that she was saying is one of the things I think that people on the surface believe in, and those one of the things that help keep us so stagnant and not understand fully the political game, because she mentioned the electoral college. who who appoints the here again, it goes back to, it does matter who you elect. Who do you think appoints people to
Okay,
be on the electoral college?
hold on, Miss Sims. Let me
And that's it.
see.
I don't want to take away.
You gonna make me start a whole new show here, but I wanted to ask you. because I think there's, I will say just conservatively, there's 30 years between our generation, meaning you and I, and
Yeah,
Dr. Sims, I mean, and Dr. Casey's generation.
yeah,
What,
yeah, yeah.
what did we do during those 30 years to improve the system for them? And if you want to talk about being a pessimist, I'm one because my answer is not a damn thing. But hey,
Yeah.
uh, I'm glad to see everybody is in good health, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Wait. The
Go
truth
ahead.
will always sound like pessimism. The truth will always sound like pessimism to an unrealistic view of things, to somebody that is disassociated from the truth of the matter. The truth is not the sugar-coated fairy tale that they want you to believe. The truth is the
Perception.
truth. And it's going to always sound like pessimism to somebody who is not willing to see the truth. And older people in general, not just Miss Sims, but older people have a problem with hearing the truth and thinking that the truth is negative when the truth is truth. Guess what? We can't come to no solutions until we address the truth of the matter and not the way that they want you to view the truth. Pessimism is when you are saying the whole system is damned. There's nothing that we can ever do to change the system. I never said that. I said that the way the system is ran now, it won't bring the change that you're saying that we're going to see just by doing the things that y'all been doing for the last 50 years. It ain't changed nothing. It's almost like saying just going to church is going to make people be better. That shit ain't never worked. I don't mean no disrespect when I'm cussing and saying this, but it does not work. So for you to think that it's going to work now all of a sudden and it has not worked in the last 50 years, that's not pessimism. That's reality. The reality is there's a lot of damn snakes.
Or delusion.
Politics,
Yeah, and I take offense
religion,
at saying
all of
that
it.
I don't
And they're
realize
very
what I
delusional.
say. She's speaking of her opinion.
Right. We're all speaking of our opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're all speaking of our
Exactly.
opinion. I mean that so you know you know what they say
The
about
truth, the
opinions,
truth is not an
and we're
opinion. The truth is
We talk about a rattlesnake and a water moccasin.
no,
Maybe.
the
there's
coral
no
snake,
snake.
You
the
gotta know.
coral,
You
the
gotta know
coral
the
snake
school
that you talked about
propaganda
last week,
Oh,
brother
yeah,
Williams,
yeah, the
the
coral
coral
snake.
snake, because
The coral
it looks
snake.
pretty. I want to pick it up. I want to. Oh man, look at it! I want to play it. It just barely
Exactly.
fit around my arm. You know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use it
Mhm.
like a little bracelet. I'm gonna play with this. I'm gonna, and when it grow up, hey, like what's the old Aesop fable with the what was it, the fox and whoever it was, he took him across the pond. He said, but I'm still a predator. I'm
Yeah.
still gonna eat your ass. Don't
Yeah.
matter how
You
nice
gotta
I
know the
am.
rules of the
It don't matter how nice I am when I take you across the water. You still gonna be
You can
my
raise a lion. That lion
dinner.
is still a
rules of
lion.
the
That
game,
lion will
how to
still
play the
bite
game,
your
and who
head
the
off.
players are. Yeah.
Ah, all right. Well, hey,
Next
I'm
show.
good. I'm glad we always have a nice heated discussion here, but we all manage. Even though our points of view are substantially different, we all come together and make a great show. So I love it to see you guys every Monday. Have a great week, and I'll see you
Happy
next week.
holidays.
All
Most of all,
right.
have a
Peace and
great
love.
have a great Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right.
It's
Misgiving.
Thanksgiving, so hey, you, uh, you might want to look and see if that's one of those satanic holidays too. But that's another
They all are
that, that,
And
that,
replacing your brain cells again. Good night. Go home, go to bed. Save your brain cells. Peace and love, everybody. Good night.
have a good night, everybody.
yeah, have a good evening.
Good night.